way, friends. So I just did an exercise. It's called thinking time. And it basically amounts to sit for 45 minutes with a pen and paper, ask a question, and write for 45 minutes. Phone out of sight, no distractions, make sure you go to the bathroom first. Like, just 45 minutes uninterrupted of thinking time. And the question for me, this came out of a session this morning with my coach, Kareen, who, nailed it again, had another great session. She prescribed this exercise as a way of getting back to basics with certain aspects of what I'm working with, which is how to take what I love and what I'm really good at and what I'm already doing and create a new level of success, create a new level of depth and power. And so my question was simply, what does success look like to me? And then I gave myself a second question. First question was, what does success mean to me? And the second question was, what is the real obstacle to my success? And it was interesting because I ended up having a moment that came back to me that totally defined the meaning of success to me. And it essentially amounts to a complete connection to my own source of energy and intelligence. Not my source, the source of energy and intelligence. And that distinction is important because my obstacle to success, what came up was putting my focus on whatever short-term set of conscious memories, circumstances, experiences, only short-term, that set of experiences that are most readily visible, and then taking those as defining who I am. And I ended up with this very, very clear, very sort of unmistakable dichotomy between the spirit of the depths and the spirit of the times, which is, I did a post on that less than a week ago, coming from Carl Jung's Red Book, where he did a bunch of active imaginations and he had dialogues with manifestations of these spirits. But that didn't strike me until I was right at the end of the exercise when I realized, wow, when I describe success for myself, it's the spirit of the depths. It's living in a total surrender of all circumstance, of all desire, of everything. And that surrender, again, I've always observed and I always emphasize that ultimately spiritual practice is a matter of coming into alignment with reality. If we are in alignment with reality, then we're in flow. We will have no spiritual existential crises because we will be in flow. We will be in the flow of life. So surrendering things that I'm attached to is simply coming into alignment with the fact that those things are going to end. I am going to lose them. Everything in the world that I am or am not attached to will end. And so this idea of surrendering is really just a simple matter of discontinuing out the illusion that somehow these things are fundamental, or somehow these things are non-negotiables. We need this in my life in order to be happy. I need this in my life in order to be successful. Surrendering all that is just coming back into alignment with, oh right, all of that's temporary. All we ever have is this moment. Life truly could end at any moment. My life could end at any moment. What if that's a liberating thought rather than an oppressive or a terrifying one? I have had a couple of moments in my life, more than a couple, but there's certainly some standout moments in my life where it was like this. I was wrestling with something. I remember an agonizing moment a number of years ago when I had a breakthrough, and it was like I did drugs. It was like I went from a contracted and concerned and painful state into a state of full, like, body high liberation and total cosmic empowerment. And the reality of that source of energy and beauty and the source of everything was just totally undeniable. It was just the most powerful experience of reality you could ever imagine. And it came from letting go of something I was deeply attached to. So as I was riffing on what does success mean to me today, I was like, well, it's that state. That's the state. And I'm at the beginning of a journey now, because state is the first step. It's state, story, strategy. So the state of success, totally evident. And then as I then switch to the second question, what is the real obstacle to my success? I realized that it's over and over again privileging something that's not real. And somehow thinking, if I lose this, then that'll be a real problem. So I better, even having recognized the kind of vast, infinite power and potential of a connection to source energy, I try to hedge and say, well, I know that's real, but I'm just going to make sure that I've got this, and then I'm going to go give the rest of myself to source energy. And this is really only like 10%? I should be able to get away with that, right? If I'm giving 90% of myself to reality, I can have this little thing I'm attached to that's not going to hurt that much, because it's just a little part of what I am. And most of me is really committed. And fortunately or unfortunately, that's not how it works. That little thing that we hold on to that feels like the non-negotiable can be anything from a house to a relationship to a way I use my time to, I don't know. I imagine you could attach this to material things. Whatever that thing is, It's like the Trojan horse. That little thing explodes inside the system and makes it impossible to connect to the source. So oftentimes when we get really fixated on a single thing and then release that thing, we've spent so much time being fixated on a single thing that releasing that thing gives us a momentary like paradigm shift, and all of a sudden we become very available to source, because source is now we shift our attention. It's like we've taken all our focus and put it on this one thing, and then whoosh, as that dissolves, we're available for the bigger picture. But as has happened to me over time, you know, that one thing that we gave up, it's not really about the thing. It's about the part of our mind that thinks we need things in order to be actualized, in order to be successful, in order to be in our deepest, truest self. So you know, there can be a kind of a spiritual experience, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to, a couple days, weeks, months, years later, get attached to something else or other things, and suddenly we're kind of like finding ourselves embroiled in this small scale living and not fully there, not able to connect anymore. So this is the mechanics of spiritual work. This is how it works. We gotta first kind of, I think it's kind of both. I sort of picked two good questions, because on the one hand we got to connect with, well, what is success? What is that ultimate liberation? What is that feeling of total this is what my life is about, on the one hand. And if we're then looking for obstacles, assuming that there are some, if maybe you have none, great. But assuming there are some, then it's like, well, what form do they take, and what are the mechanics of how they create problems? Because if we can start to see that, then then maybe I could let go of my entire tendency to attach to things, instead of letting go of the things, which is part of the process. I can start to see the tendency underneath it all and shift that. Because if that shifts, it's over. I'm living in source. The jig is up. Illusion, world of illusion, I'm on to you. And what a life that would be. Right? So I'll come back to you with this state that I've connected with will propose a story. There'll be a who am I in this place? What do I do? How does this state, which is very much about an internal focus and a kind of connection to an internal source, what does that translate into externally? What does that look like? It's going to spin a very different story than a story that is based on the narrative or based on the idea that I need certain things in my life in order to be successful, in order to be happy, etc. And then after that, once I know that story, once that story is fleshed out a little bit, it may not be the definitive story, it won't be the only way to tell this story, but it'll be a version of what life looks like from a very different vantage point. Then we can talk about, okay, well, what needs to be in place? What do I need to do? What do I need to give? What opportunities do I need to give myself? How do I want to go about living this story. So I'm excited. This is going to be fun. I hope you'll watch. Please stay with me on this. It'd be great to have some fellow travelers. That's where I am today, people. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Much love. See you soon.